Well, read it up aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you all please rise and we'll say the pledge, get the meeting started? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did call Andrew, she's on her way.
That's fine, we'll squeeze her in. Adam, do you have, do you want to address the club here for a little bit?
Well,
Have anything?
most of you have heard OSHA mandate, luckily that got shot down, so that affected us for a little bit, but then CMS come along and is enforcing their own mandate. So Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, basically if you accept Medicare and Medicaid dollars, which we do as part of our transport, anyone that accepts those dollars, they're mandating the vaccine on, which is causing some uproar throughout the healthcare community. People are already pushed to their limit. Now the government's telling us to get the vaccine or get fired, basically. So you can tell I've got some people that are not super enthused about that. They are offering some exemptions for religious and medical, so we'll see where that route takes. But that is currently affecting us right now. So far, I haven't lost anyone, but I can't guarantee that that won't push some people out the door. But it's not just going to be my department; it's going to be anywhere in healthcare. So healthcare workers are already taxed, and they're giving us the middle finger once again, basically. COVID, I've lucked out on so far, but it's finally hitting the department. I've got a couple of people out right now. Luckily, people have been PPE'd appropriately, so it hasn't taken out my whole department yet, but there may be, I'm gonna run 3 trucks as long as I can. I mean, our contract only has 2, and lately, I mean, there hasn't been many days that we haven't run 4 trucks. Out of last week, we had 4 trucks running 5 out of 7 days just because we've been that busy. But there may be a couple evenings, I may have to drop down to 3 trucks, or 2 trucks, just probably for the overnight hours, but I don't foresee that being more than a few hours at a time. We will still, I'll never drop below 2. We always have at least 2 trucks on staff. And I'd say over 95% of the time we're gonna have that 3rd one on. Just in case the COVID situation does get worse, we may have to drop that 3rd truck on occasion. We are continuing to be everyone's safety net. Like I said, staffing in healthcare is a pain everywhere. But we are more and more frequently backing up Crispin, Marshall. We went to Martinsville last week. People are just having staffing issues, so with us being adequately staffed, we're kind of backing up everyone. Now we are keeping, like I said, we always keep at least 2 trucks available for our 911 service. So there may be times where I have to tell these other agencies, no, we can't respond because, I mean, our primary contractual agreement is here. But we're being pushed to about as much as we can be pushed to without having to tell people no. So we do have that 4th truck running pretty frequently. We're taking a beating on it, but we're providing care to the people who need it, so that's what we're about. Today I've got body armor coming in for the staff. It'll be plate carriers. If you guys aren't familiar, it's just basically a vest that's worn over the uniform. It's not something under. They will not be wearing that at all times with those calls that necessitate that. Up to this point, we have not had that available, so I've pushed that through. We put a pretty good investment into that. But just last week, there was a shooting right outside Carle Hospital, like on hospital campus, and we go there fairly frequently. Shootings are unfortunately getting more and more frequent. So it's something the staff needed to be, I felt the staff needed to have to be the safest they could. Area agencies are wearing body armor 24/7. Do I see us getting there? Probably eventually, but this is the first step to keeping my crew safe. You guys have any questions, comments, concerns for me?
Do a good job.
Thank you. So we're rolling with these mandate punches they come. The deadline for your first dose is December 4th. The deadline for the 2nd dose is somewhere around the beginning of January. So it'll be seeing what happens with, like I said, governor or appellate court overturned the OSHA mandate, but there's lawsuits out there for the CMS mandate right now, but there have been no action on that as of yet.
Thank you, Adam.
No problem.
Appreciate the report. Appreciate your concern for your people and ours. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. Andy, do you have anything to go over?
They're supposed to be able to get the boiler going today. Well, the boiler inspector has been in and made them change some, just happened to be there and made them change some things on it, or they would have had it done last week. So they're hopefully get it done today. And insurance wise, I'll let you go. I've got a call into JR, but I haven't heard back from him. So, but I don't think there's anything we can do this year to affect this year's premiums, correct? Is that your understanding?
No, you can't.
Right, so, I mean, I wanted to have a meeting with him, but I don't think there's any urgency in it at this point if it's not gonna affect what happens this year, so.
I do think that JR is more aggressive, and I think we got good service out of Austin, but I think he is more aggressive. He was actually on the line trying to figure out, on the industry side, trying to figure out how to fight insurance costs.
Yeah.
So he says he will be as aggressive as we want him to be. So I think we need to follow up fairly shortly.
Right, I definitely do.
We could talk about that. Our insurance premium, which you'll find in your package, is quoted at $348,731, which is roughly an 11% increase. The actual that will pay out is $345,231. He was able to fight and get us a $3,500 reduction. It's not we're paying it all at once, but we're going to. I talked to Don, and we do have the money. If we don't pay it all at once, we don't get the $3,500. But we have it in the accounts, so we might as well pay for it. And then work comp is up about 10 grand, or about 12%. And we're still paying, is that a 5 or 7 year? I think it's a 5 year worth. We've still paid a lot less than they have paid out for work comp. Now, last year, we paid them about 90, a little over 90 grand, and we had, I think, under 40,000 in claims. So to show you how far behind we are, but I'm sure it's a 5-year experience average. So if we have another good year, we'll see some improvement. The companies that have quoted these, he has gone and reached out to other companies on work comp and our general liability, even though we're, we probably wouldn't have moved, just to see if he could do us better. The deductibles are still 5 grand and 25 for anything having to do with the sheriff's department, as far as prisoner and any violations we might have there that we need to insure. So they did not go up to 50 like they were talking about, they stayed at 25. And you'll notice on your billing estimate that's in your book, it shows you law enforcement has dropped to $24,700. So our liability payments have dropped for that particular item. So, but we can discuss that more tomorrow, or Wednesday after you've looked at it, and if you have any questions. And JR has always been available. I know he was here while I was gone last month, and he's always available to talk to us, he said, at any point that you have questions. And like I said, I think he fully expects to meet with us to see how we can mitigate or at least stabilize any increases. But he said a lot of places got 30% increases, not 11. So a lot of his clients got hit with 30% this year. So we just need to stay on top of it. Do you have any more comments about that? Any questions at this point? Anyway, it's in your packet. And it kind of gives you a synopsis of what's going on. Do you have anything else under your report? No. Andrea, do you want to come up, sit here, and We'll talk.
We had a meeting last week, and she had a rough sketch of the voucher policy that we are going to hopefully adopt. We wanted her to present the thing today, that way we could adopt it in December.
Well,
and
there's 2 pages.
Two
guys.
pages, sorry guys, I didn't staple.
and start it in January.
Well, the thing is, right now, I am having an incredibly hard time even getting my shelter dogs vetted. Oh, sorry, do I need,
Yeah, one more for me.
okay. And the cost they give me is different than what they give to everybody else. But the thing is, my next vetting appointment, even for my shelter dog, you know, the dogs that are adopted or waiting to be adopted, is not until December 21st. So it's very hard for me to go and get one vet to do this program. So that's why the different vet costs are across the bottom at different rates. What I'm proposing is so we can figure out and always know how much money or how many, I keep track of how many vouchers are going out, but we just set one price, $75 for dogs, $50 for cats. So we know exactly where our money is, because if they're picking what vet they're going to, it's always going to be a different rate if we don't set just one set price. The vets have agreed to do it this way. They do not want to do it the old way because of the vet costs, raising money and everything else. They want to be able to charge the people that are coming in what is the rates that day, not one set rate. Does that make sense how I'm saying it?
You understand it?
Yeah, in other words, if you had an agreement with, say, Lakeside,
Mm-hmm.
and they would, if you brought in a dog,
And it's bigger than they said, or something like that. They want to charge accordingly.
they want to keep their scale,
Yep,
and then we're gonna give them $75 if it's a dog, $50 if it's a cat, and they choose where they go.
yep.
Right,
Make it as simple as we possibly can.
right.
The second paper is how we did the old vouchers, which I've marked out the stuff that I'd like to change. And the 2 per household, I'd like to say within maybe a 2-year period or something. So somebody doesn't do 2 and then 6 months later we get 2 more. We get 2 more. So I'm thinking set a time period on that so it can't be overused. And just have it approved by me or Linda and go for it.
When you take a cat off the street and you're, say it is not neutered, and it is now in the shelter, ready to be,
Right now, we're not doing any cats. The Humane Society has stepped back up again and they have reorganized and they're doing the cats.
what
So
are
right
they
now-
charging for cat then?
I am not sure, but I don't have to take any in, because the only place I've got to hold them is in my office, Jeff.
What about dogs?
Dogs, it's a different I go to Honey Creek mostly, and that is not what they're charging me. They have a whole separate rate that they charge for the dogs that are going through the shelter and getting adopted. After they're completely vetted, I charge $150. Now, it has raised just recently because of all the costs are raising. But
But it is covering our costs. then.
it's covering our costs, that's why we had to go up.
That's-
But it's covering fixing, microchipping, and rabies since distemper. So we're getting the basics for that $150. But that's why I want to keep it completely separate, because Honey Creek doesn't mind doing one every 2 or 3 weeks, or one, couple every, whatever I've got. But they don't want to be hit with the whole public coming in with these papers getting, and I can understand that.
Well, they're probably gonna pick the least expensive. that
Yeah.
can use the voucher, which I talked to the family animal out east last week, and they were very receptive
Yep.
to doing the animals.
The cheapest is Dyke, but he is getting old enough now, he doesn't want to do anything over 50 pounds. So, that's gonna, so I figured if I just present, when they get the voucher, I hand them, here's their cost, you guys decide, you set the appointment. When you turn in your paper, the vets will turn the slip back in and get credited back for the 75 or the 50, and we're done. We know exactly how
So
much
we
we're
issue a
spending.
check to them then.
Yes, we'll pay them back for
Okay.
that amount.
They hand in just
Yep.
like
A bill.
yeah, and then they turn around and bill us for whatever they've got.
Yep,
Okay.
and we know exactly where we're standing all the time.
She mentioned taking money out of the ANA fund, you find out what that is?
How,
I don't understand that, so maybe
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't either, I don't know.
Did it come out of,
it'd be out of Anna's. It's the rabies, go in for the rabies.
well, okay, the rabies is totally separate.
Mhm.
It shouldn't come out of rabies.
It comes out of the fund that,
It
How
comes
I-
out of this pet population control.
yeah,
That's
that's,
11,000.
that's Anna's, yeah,
Right, that's where, 840,
yep,
that's where it comes out of.
yep.
840.
And that's what we used to use is, it was called the Anna's Fund when I first started here. What it was is a portion of the, it's not actually the rabies fund, but when a dog is not fixed, they pay the extra $10 for the tag. That money goes into that fund and is supposed to come back out to help the pet population. So
Which is
it's
what
like
doing.
we're cycling the money back in from what we're getting on the rabies.
How much money didn't that one?
11 grand right now.
Should be
11,800,
pretty good shape for.
almost 12 grand.
Okay.
Okay.
And I figured this way I can keep track and not go over, because the last way it was very hard to control what was going over, because we had a $15 copay and then we were responsible, they had a $15 copay and then we were responsible for the rest of the bill. So it was very hard for us to manage and know exactly where I was standing a lot of times.
Now, on the animal shelter adoption fund, which I'm assuming,
That
like
is,
if you take it over to Honey Creek and it's
Yep.
150, just hypothetical, then that comes out of.
yep, that's where that comes out
And
of.
you've got $7,600.
And how that money-
Is that replenished every year or?
No,
is it
that-
just
How
keep
that
going
money
down?
cycles is every time I adopt a dog, I put it back in
I
that
see.
fund.
Okay.
Every time I have a vet bill that is for an adoption dog, it comes out of that fund, so it's cycling
It
itself.
Stays up
So-
before we can.
So
Yep.
there's almost 20 grand in those two.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as I keep adopting and, you know, that one
Keep an eye
stays.
on me so I don't steal too much.
Yes, I
Steal
know.
too much out of it. Yeah, we got our eye on you, yeah.
No, I mean, that's fine.
So
So,
what we'd like to do is adopt this in December, and that we can start in January.
Yeah, I'd like to start January 1st.
and you do have $9,400 in your donation fund.
Right.
Yeah, but that, I have done a lot of fixing up lately,
Well,
so that
and
one's gonna go
this
down a
is-
little bit.
This is as of the second, or it's of the first week in November. so
Okay, so yeah.
It is gonna change.
Yeah, I've had a whole new fence put up. I've changed out the backside of our runs, fixed all the fence. Right now I have 2 pins that are broken, everything else is good to go.
I was out there, it makes it nice if somebody comes in, wants to see if the dog is friendly, she can let the dog out in the play area, and the person could come in and spend time with the animal, which used to didn't have that, because we didn't have a fence on the back.
Yeah.
They couldn't
The
do
biggest
that.
thing is,
Right.
when I started,
Take off, yeah.
we held 12 dogs. Since I've been there, we can hold about 25, 26 easily now. So I've
Not that we
doubled
want
our
that many,
numbers.
yeah. We don't want that many, right?
No, we don't want that many, but I've made it so we can, because what do I do with the overflow? I can make more money on them, I mean, I hate to say it this way, adopting them than euthanizing. There's no reason.
That's a bad, bad word.
She also has
Yes,
a
I know,
couple
I'm
of
sorry.
pins open, so if somebody brings the dog out, there's pins there they can put the dog in, like after hours when she's not there. So-
And I've just moved them to make them more accessible, because before you had to walk through my whole shelter, the backside, to get to it. And I was always scared of somebody tripping and stuff like that. And now it's right beside my office, so as soon as you drive in, they can get out, put the dogs up, and they're not going all over the property.
Right.
Anybody got any questions about what they're proposing? We thank the committee and Andrea. Yes,
Do you
go
have
ahead.
an extra copy of
Yes.
your program, so I didn't get one, but I didn't want to
She spent a lot
interrupt
of time on this, as you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not into typing, guys, so I'm sorry that.
you. You already got, okay.
She also still has a problem with your computer system, right?
Yeah, I've got a massive problem with the computer system right now. We lost everything, and I was having a printing problem. I could not get the letters to print. Took it up to Ross, and somehow or another, I've lost of all the rabies slips for 2020 and 21. They're gone. Everything that has been
Was in the computer?
was in the computer. Now I have no
Should be there somewhere, on
Nope.
a hard drive or something.
I'll check with Ross after.
Okay.
I had Ross looked at it and he said we needed a new program. That was his solution to the thing, but we'd still have to re-enter everything again. I went ahead and called Coles County and I called Douglas County and asked them, do you still send out reminders? Do you still, and they go, well, we keep track of our rabies, but no, we do not use the cost to send out reminders. The vets do that now, so there's no reason for us to do it too. Because you figure the cost of stamps, the letters, everything else, we're not making any money on this. So I'm looking and shopping around for different programs. I might do it through email now. Just get an email address for everybody it's getting, and we'll send out the ones with emails. And not have the postage cost and the letter cost and all that again. I was upset about it at first, and now I'm like, hey, it might be us moving more into technology a little bit more, because I'm back to folding all the letters and everything else. I mean,
We take our cats out east, and they send a reminder. when the
yep,
cats
I called
Get them fixed, rabies and so forth.
all the
Just send
vets
reminders.
here, and everybody except Dyke Davis sends out reminders, and Dyke doesn't do enough anymore to really. So, yeah, computer program, the truck still broke down too. We're still
Yeah.
waiting on it too, so I need
What's the
some,
matter with the truck? Do you know?
they don't know, they think it's a short somewhere,
Oh, that's sure.
yeah.
How
So,
old is that truck?
It's,
it's not that old, but I have had tons of problems with it this year.
remember, it's a donation from.
It was from the county.
County.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, you might talk to Dirk. We're trading off the truck.
Okay,
It may not fit, but if we're trading one off, maybe we're trading our own truck off.
Right.
I don't know, but check with him.
okay.
If not, maybe something else can be done if it's eventually a problem.
It has been this year.
It's
It
all
has been
something.
between rear end and fuel problems
Or if
and,
they can't help you now, maybe they'll be able to help you shortly when we trade in another truck.
okay.
Because I think that's what we did on another situation. We had a bad truck and
Did her truck?
Yeah, I've had a
Came
bad
from here.
run
Yeah,
of
donation-
trucks lately.
Donation from here,
Yeah.
So
we're
trade
gonna
that
have
one
to
off.
get you a new T-shirt with a tore up truck on it. Well, anyway, we need to solve that problem.
Yeah,
Okay, I make light, but it's really not. So you might talk to Dirk when
Okay.
you leave here.
Yeah.
He's down the hall to the left.
okay, well,
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Great job.
See you guys.
Thank you for taking your time. Do you have
So,
anything else?
I got a question.
Oh, yes.
So you're saying they're trading the truck in, so, okay,
You see what I'm saying? Instead of trading the truck in that they were going to,
trade, get
try
rid
to
of that
give
one.
her that truck and trade her truck in.
Right,
And I don't know whether that's possible, but it's worth asking,
right.
okay?
You need to go out and look at the animal shelter, how much work they've done on it.
Yeah,
He's
I've been
done,
out
you
there.
know, yeah, you
Right.
know how much they've done, so.
You
But they've
had-
had a lot of trouble with that truck. and
Yes,
just-
they have.
They've always had trouble
Yes,
with it ever
it's
since
a
they've had it.
donation from here,
Right.
so it's probably not very good shape when they got it from the counties.
Do you have anything else? Dan?
Well, at the health department meeting, you were gonna discuss that.
Yeah, the way I understood it from Dan was that they were gonna be making some changes at the administrative level. So I just called Janet. No offense, but
Right,
I
that's fine.
wanted to find out what was going on. And Janet wants to take a lesser role, and she would become the assistant administrator, and Monica would become the administrator. Monica has the credentials and everything, as I understand it. So I think the questions were, do we need to advertise? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And she had forgotten that we had Bellwether on board. And so I didn't make any comment about what they were doing, because I would assume that board knows full well what they're doing. It's got competent people on it. So I just simply said, in order to make sure that we're approaching it the right way, would you talk to Bellwether? And she called up Bruce, and they talked for quite a while. And it turned out that actually this change has been in the offing for quite a few months, and they've been sharing duties and so forth. Anyway, the upshot is that Bruce didn't see any issues in the way they were handling. And so the board hasn't made a final decision yet. But I just wanted to make you aware of it, so that in case somebody says something to you, I mean, we're responsible for putting the people on the board. And I think, according to Bruce, they're heading in the right direction. He's had 2 other counties that have been searching for health department qualified administrators, and it's very difficult right now. So he said the way they're approaching it and the way they're kind of maneuvering the positions around was more than adequate, he thought, to you know, take care of any concerns. So I just thought I'd pass that on to you, so not saying that it's, but it's not 100% done, it's still on the agenda, and the board will make a final
Actually, I
decision.
thought we passed that.
According to her, it's not a done deal yet.
Also, is she taking is she gonna be on salary or taking less money?
That's up
or-
to that board.
Yeah, okay.
That's up to you guys,
Yeah.
and I assume that with the business people and the medical people, they'll know how to handle it correctly.
Jason
Right.
Graham's the one that brought it up.
Right, and I just
And
wasn't
I don't
gonna
know
name
what
his.
I don't know what our policy says, if there's something got to go through.
All I
That's
know
what we
is
were
that
worried
our
about.
pros say everything's fine,
Okay, good.
all right?
Okay. It was fine with me that day, but Jason did bring up a point and.
I will have a
Good
chance,
question.
this happened late last week. I'll let Jason know,
Okay.
and I'll give him a Bellwether's phone number if he wants to call and check.
Okay.
It's not a deal. The other thing I wanted to make sure that Monica and Janet knew, since she was, and we'll probably send out, just kind of reinforce this, I think we were gonna have a department head meeting soon anyway, but they're available to them anytime they have issues.
Yeah, I asked if it has to go through our board to make the change and point her as
No,
administrator.
it doesn't. When they appointed Janet, they had, they took care of it.
We just vote on the members.
Members, that's all, and we approved their budget,
Okay.
okay? And that's plenty.
We have one opening, we may have 2.
Right, and we discussed that.
Okay.
We have a couple of renewals here. They weren't willing to, they haven't talked to the one person that they're thinking about replacing
Cindy,
cities.
yeah, we kind of discussed maybe having a.
Don't mention any names.
No,
Okay.
have a person that would be, has some experience in mental health, which probably would be good on our committee, because we don't have one. We have doctors, but we don't have somebody that has a little experience in mental health, so she mentioned some people that might be interested, that's in the mental health field, which is good.
And I don't think the other one that you think may
No,
retire,
no,
he's not
I-
gonna leave anytime
No,
soon.
I've talked to him too,
All right.
no, I've talked to him too.
Are there any questions on the issues revolving around the health? It's just a matter of you guys knowing what's going on,
Right.
okay?
Am I correct that I'd heard at one time you had some members who weren't real good about attending?
Yeah. At least one,
That's
really bad,
just
really
kind
bad.
of-
Sometimes he gets on what is the, Zoom, yeah, but not very often. Never comes to meetings.
Well,
What are you
that's
gonna
an
do?
internal affair
Right, it
for the
has to
board.
do with it,
And
right.
if they have an issue, they will bring it to us,
It's never been
otherwise.
brought up, so they don't worry too much.
I mean,
We have
we've got
trouble.
enough on our plates without trying to run the health
Right,
department.
right
board
now,
on
we
top.
have trouble getting the quorum to do anything.
Most of the time, you're all right.
Yeah. One time. we
But
did.
you guys as board members should be concerned about that, and
Oh,
if
yeah.
there's some
We are.
concerns, we need to talk about it, and if it needs to be brought to our attention, then maybe we need to do something about it. If you
Yeah,
got
we're-
someone that doesn't even participate,
But,
Well, I'll pass that on to Janet,
yeah,
okay?
what are you gonna do?
And Ally.
What are you gonna do, kick them off, or?
Well, I mean,
Ask them
maybe
for
they need to,
time.
the chairman needs to talk to them,
Yeah, I agree.
okay?
you know.
If they don't have the time, I'm sure there's other folks, and I don't know who it is, and we don't
Yeah,
wanna
I
know.
No, but, I mean, we have 2 people that have to be at work at 8, and he would have to be at work at 8 also, so he would, to me, would have time to come to 7 o'clock meeting.
But I know, you know, about a year or so ago, we had some issues, there was some talk and issues with, out the high rise.
Oh, public, or the housing authority.
Yeah, you know, and it was brought to our attention, and, you know, I went to one of the meetings and,
Yep, we did.
you know, then we got 2 new board members on there,
Mhm.
and I think they're doing a fine
No, I
job.
mean,
Yeah,
when
they're running on all their cylinders.
Yep,
when you can't get enough for quorum, and
Can't
we
do
went
it.
ahead and passed some things, which actually you can't do that, but you went ahead and did them, so.
so on our agenda, I guess, the 2
I
somewhere,
think that was
I
fine.
know.
These are just
We
renewals?
said we were gonna handle
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Okay?
okay.
Jeff,
Yes, sir.
on our agenda, we're appointing 2 board members.
Rico and Kathy Lenz.
And those are just renewals.
Those are just renewals, yes.
And they're good. I mean,
Yeah.
Kathy's administrator at Pleasant Meadows, which is a good person to have on.
Mm,
Rico is good too.
okay, good.
We'll try to show it
Okay,
up.
well, I just brought up the point, I think.
Yep.
I think they should know here,
Well, they do.
other than that.
All right. Russ? How about you, Carl?
I guess briefly, last week we had a 911 meeting, and the main topic was combined dispatch with the city, talking about that. The mayor and the city administrator were there. They told everybody that they are very interested in, you know, seeing about combined dispatch, you know, whether it be here in the near future or once the new jail's built, if that ever comes to fruition. So we talked about that. You know, their big concern was they want to do it, but they want to know the costs. And you know, that's something that we're looking into. You know, what all the total costs are going to be. So it's nothing that's going to happen right away, but you know, we got to be looking for the future to see what the possibilities might be. And that's just, it's up in the air, but they're just definitely reinforced that they're interested in it. But I can remember back when I was at the Sheriff's Department 20-some years ago, they expressed interest in it. And since then, there have been numerous times they've expressed interest. Nothing has ever happened. But, you know, eventually it might happen, but, you know.
Is the board up to us to make that,
Well, eventually, the board is gonna be.
make a proposition to them, I suppose, at some
Well, or
point.
makes the decision whether they're gonna move or not.
Is that typical for most counties, to have it combined with the police department?
Wouldn't say it's typical, but it happens.
Yeah, right.
They're Knox County, Clark County,
Coles County, Douglas they're separate, I don't, but, the bigger counties are, I think, you know, not involving 911 and everything, you know, it's just all together.
Yeah, well, makes sense to have it together. See,
well, that's what we're gonna try to find out.
Right. But there's a lot of things to consider, you know, as far as just, you know, costs for equipment. And obviously the biggest expense is personnel. You know, I think we're at over 300,000 is our costs. The mayor mentioned that roughly 300 is what they're paying. So, you know, we talked about how many, you know, how much staffing it's gonna take. You know, if you combine everything, you know, that's something to consider. Obviously more positions in the call center. We currently just have 2 positions, you know. In discussions we had the other day, you know, they thought if we combined, we very well, some of the shifts might have to have 3. You know, so there's, and to have 3 people, you know, they were talking about 3 on day shift, 3 on the evening, maybe 2 on midnight. when you're running a 24/7 operation, that's a lot of people. So, there's just a lot of things to consider with it all. So we're working on it.
Do you have the data you need to make the decision?
How do you always come up with questions like that? We're
I'm working
seeking-
on, we're working on it,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
I
have,
can understand if you don't, that wasn't a pointed
Right.
question, but,
I mean, we know the labor costs currently. I talked to the 911 coordinator the other day, because I just roughly penciled out when they were talking, they thought they needed 3 people on some of these shifts, that's gonna be more personnel than we currently have
yeah.
to cover that. So, the labor costs will go up.
Am I right that there are 3 workstations there?
There's 2, and then the 3rd workstation is in the 911 coordinator's office. Could be used, as a answering.
well,
position.
right now, there's 4 people on dispatch. 2 for 911 and 2 for the city. So there's technically 4 people on duty all the time between the 2 centers, as I understand it,
On some shifts.
and more on others. So, okay, so if we went to a 3-person shift, that would actually be a reduction in the amount of people, if we had a combined. But these are, in total.
Well,
I'm just saying, those are questions. And what we need to find out, and I think what you're talking, who's getting what kind of calls? In other words, how do you justify, in other words, how many ambulance calls are there? How many actual 911 calls? How many calls are there? What kind of calls are they taking just for the sheriff's department? All of those calls make up, help determine what's happening as far as what your needs are for personnel, or at least play a role in it. And we're a little behind the 8 ball right now in 911. We know how many 911 calls they handle, but we don't know so much about other calls. Is that correct?
no, well, the city,
The city knows.
well, and we know for the month of September,
Right.
we had 1,600, and I told Nanette 2 weeks ago, I said, when October's finished up, you need to get that, but she hasn't got those figures to me to see if maybe,
Well, that's what my
Right.
point was gonna be,
Right.
is that we need a more complete picture of what we're fielding as far as calls. The city has a pretty good handle, I think, on what they're doing on a monthly basis. So we need to increase what our statistics a little bit.
because, like for the month of September, the city received their dispatchers answered 2,400,
Right.
roughly, 2,400 calls.
Right.
The county answered roughly 1,600 calls, and then there was 600 some 911 calls.
And they weren't included in the
They're not
60.
included in that,
No.
okay?
See, I was not clear on that, so.
So the city's handling about a third more.
Well,
1,600, 2,400.
Actually, the county with they're almost the same, 2,400 for the city, the county's 1,600,
But then you got.
911 calls 600, so it's 2,300, so it's
About the same,
about the same.
okay.
But then of those 600 some calls that 911 answered, 100 to 200 of them are city police calls. So 911, the county answers them, but then we
And
transfer
switch it
them over
over
to
to
the
them.
city. So I think that probably was in their 2,400, those 100 to 200 calls.
So the city police dispatch handles a lot of calls that are non-emergency,
Right. And we
that are
do
just
too.
business calls.
And we do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, majority of the calls that everybody gets are not true emergency calls.
Is the new system, the phone system, the answering system on the regular number helping with that at all? Like picking up, could that be expanded a little bit more to maybe help with the calls?
Well, that 1,600 is just what goes to dispatch. That's not including the administrative, because with the new system,
Right.
you got four options.
Four options.
Four options, and only 1,600 of them are the dispatch, or dispatch. And you've got administrative option, you've got correction option, and then the jail administrator option. And
So-
you dial 465-4166.
So the 1,600, they're dialing 911 and they're not
No.
emergency?
No, just the non-emergency line at the sheriff's department. When you dial 465-4166, that's,
Because see, it gives you four, when you do that, it gives
Right.
you four options and they're picking the telecommunicators then.
right, 1,600 go to that, coming in on that line.
I wonder if we change the order of those, that might reduce the number, do you know what I mean? In other words, make it harder for them to get to 911 if it's not actually an emergency.
Harder to
In other words, I think it's the first in a dial one. Instead of dialing one, you gotta dial four. So it's not the first option on your selection. Do you know what I mean?
Well, actually, I haven't called lately, but I think the dispatch maybe is not option one.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you
I think it's
call,
two.
It's one we call pretty frequently.
if you call 911, the first thing you get are four options.
No,
No,
911's
It
totally
has to be a
separate.
direct.
That goes direct to the
Right, I'm sorry.
sheriff's
okay,
department.
that's,
Confusing you,
okay,
but
that makes
I mean-
sense.
Yes.
All right, I understand.
And but that's answered by the dispatch,
Same person,
same person.
yes.
Well, okay.
Whether you call 911 or the non-emergency line at the sheriff's department, it's handled by the same person. Just comes in on a different line. They pick up the same receiver, it's just a
So she
different
knows
line.
right off the bat it's different.
Yes.
What's that, I'm just curious, because I've called them before for stuff, but I don't wanna call 911, because I don't think it's emergency, but I wanna get ahold of somebody. What's that under? Just Edgar County Sheriff's Department?
Correct.
That's it, just,
Yeah.
that's what you Google, because
The
I don't
non-emergency.
think I
It's
know where a phone is.
465-4166.
That's 53 calls a day. 1,600.
Jeff, I apologize, I gotta go to another meeting. One thing I forgot about is the highway department did approach, kind of through the grapevine earlier this week about the AEDs. I guess they were under the impression they were earmarked, a couple.
They were.
They were,
They sure got one.
but that was not part of the original conversation, because their AEDs were newer than the rest of the county, so the agreement was that there were none earmarked for them. I still have one spare in the office. Is that where you guys want to go, is out here?
Or did we get 18 or 17?
We got 18, and I've still got two in the office. You said that you want one to go to the public defender's office whenever he's set up. That leaves one more. So I just wanted to make sure this is where you wanted it before I disperse those.
Yeah, and that will be, then that'll be all of
That'll
ours.
be all of them dispersed.
Yes.
Okay.
As long as this one is expired, is this one?
No, it's still good, but they were under the impression they were getting some
No,
anyway.
then they were wrong.
Okay.
I will straighten that out.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought they weren't gonna get
No.
it.
So these are a different brand, but they are newer than the rest of the county. So,
All right, just make sure theirs work.
I'll double check with them and get back with you.
have a good day, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Any more on the 911 and what we're trying to figure out? Phil?
Well,
Lisa?
Attended HRC's 708 board meeting last week. It was a really good meeting, a lot of brainstorming and good discussion. We talked about the signage that's throughout the county now and how much we think that's important and appropriate, and just kind of brainstorming what the next phase will be. And of course, we don't know how many of them will survive a winter on the prairie, but so they're thinking about around 2 next spring. And Jonathan had stated that they are starting to use our funds that we have provided with them for continuing education. And he said he had a staff member who, it would have been a $20,000 additional salary for a similar position in Terre Haute. But Jonathan's philosophy and quality of life that he enables them to have here, plus the continuing education, is what made the difference. So he's very aware, I think he's a really good administrator, and he's very aware of what he needs and what he has to do to make a good cohesive unit. So again, he asked me to express his appreciation for the additional funds, and they're starting to get used, which is what we had, what the purpose was. As far as Bellwether, where are we with them making updates? Do you know, Augie?
So I got that just recently, but I got it recently. So
Okay.
there's a lot going on here in November, so I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. But I'll forward it on and everybody can read it and we can get back together.
Okay, so
So-
maybe January we could have a
Oh, I think that,
department
absolutely,
head.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think it'd be a great idea if we coordinate a time when Bruce can be present.
Definitely, because I think they need to develop, you all need to develop your own relationship and a comfort in giving him a call.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
They need to be able to review, is that what you just said?
yeah.
Right,
What's-
to review it.
Because they've already gone on it once, they made
Yeah.
contributions, now we need to review it before it gets to the board.
Right.
Right, and then, but we'll meet again, face to face with Bruce and try to nail it down.
Also, I did finally present the draft of the solar ordinance to Wyatt, Farm Bureau manager, and he said he thought it would take him a week or so to review it, Farm Bureau legal, and I haven't heard back from him on that. And then, I don't think I'm gonna be lucky enough that they make it pretty and more official looking, because it was kind of rough. I thought there's no point in me spending a lot of time until I find out what changes they suggested. So, and one of the things that we had talked about at our last meeting with Russ and Derek was for me to contact Coles County, and I did, and they don't have a solar ordinance, nor are they interested in having one. So it's a free-for-all down there. And
Coles County?
Coles County.
And they don't wanna have one?
Nope. And interestingly, so I couldn't find one, because I thought, well, you should be able to just Google and find Coles County solar ordinance. So I called this, it turned out to be the Charleston zoning board director. And so he forwarded me on to Kelly Lockhart, who's the regional planning board, but he also would be the one doing zoning work for Coles County. And he said, he's the one who told me they don't have one, they aren't really interested in creating one. And I said, so how's that going for you? Do you get anybody coming to your board meetings? And he said, well, we had one individual came and expressed concern and never heard from him again. So they weren't feeling any pressure to create an ordinance, but he said they are looking to revisit their wind ordinance. And Apex is in a study phase, an environmental study phase down there. But Coles County Board, I said, so does that mean you're gonna like declare a moratorium, or are you gonna let them just go ahead and submit a permit request? And he said, well, they told us it's gonna be a year or two before they're ready for a permit request. So they don't have a Jeff, apparently. They aren't feeling any
Thank
sense
God,
of
right?
urgency.
Well, they've got-
No, I think I am glad that we are being proactive. I get the feeling they're just sitting down and making things
Well,
happen.
they've got a big one going in over there that's in Coles County, right?
That's
What do you mean
huge,
they, what do you mean they haven't got any applications? There's a big one going in.
Talking about wind.
Wind,
Oh,
wind.
wind, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking
You know,
solar.
the Apex Environmental
Well, you
Wind.
switched from solar to wind.
So,
That's gonna be a big issue for them.
I would think so.
Do we need to extend the moratorium for another month or so to give you some time to get, we don't wanna rush this thing.
Right, I would
And
say,
they're not, it's not like they're gonna go out in the middle of winter and start building
No.
this thing,
yeah.
okay?
But they'll get the permits.
I would say better safe than sorry, since I haven't heard back from Farm Bureau Legal.
Well, it's too late to get on this agenda, but we can put it on the agenda on the 8th. So we'll put it on there no matter what, just in case we need it. Maybe everything will work right and we won't need to, but
Okay.
just to be sure, maybe we'll extend it by 60 days. And we need to give the reason according to Mark. It can't be because we just don't want to. It's because some of the comments from, you know,
And the legal
stakeholders,
review, yeah.
yeah, and legal.
Well, and then, so within that moratorium period, then we also have to do our public hearing. Is that right? A public
didn't
hearing
know we
because
had
it's a
to
new
do a
ordinance?
I didn't know we had, do we, I can't remember what that says.
I was thinking we did. But
I
I don't
don't.
remember where I read that.
We did for the wind ordinance, okay,
We did,
back in 08 or 09 or whatever it was, there was,
yeah.
so I would think we need to figure that we need to.
I could swear I read it somewhere,
Oh,
but I
that's
couldn't
fine.
get my hands on it quickly.
Okay. Well, let's just assume we need
Just
to.
have one.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't hurt to have one anyway.
No,
Because we'd rather, you know, we may find that there's, well, it'd be nice to find which way the wind's blowing on the issue, okay? How's that?
that sounds good.
No pun intended.
Or where the sun's shining.
Yeah. Oh, you're such a.
Yeah, those are the three things I've been working on.
What- I'm curious, and this was brought up in a conversation the other day, are some of the chemicals and stuff in the solar?
Oh, let me
Are
address
they
that one.
toxic?
So, I'm not, I don't have a yes or no. However, you know, my cousin Josh Barrett puts these in, but he doesn't do the big ones, but he's contracting to do one at Christmas at the school. So they're not just homeowner or farm. So he's not gonna be doing the kind or involved in the kind that we're doing. But I had asked him, because we had talked about that, I'm like, well, let me go to my phone a friend. And so he gave me a document. The most recent document though was from 2017. But, you know, the solar folks will tell you that the amount is so minimal, it's not even a valid question. And kind of that was the answer I got on fire, because those were my two issues. Because again, you know, my perspective is always to protect the citizen or the land that's not involved under contract. So he's saying there's not an issue on either one. Okay, well, maybe that's true. Could very well be, I don't really know. Am I always 100% trusting of the industry that wants to put them in?
Right,
No.
right.
So regardless of what the industry is or what the topic is. So, our ordinance has quite a bit in there on fire protection, quite a bit on tile, and also, water protection. Now, I am also, need to go, have an appointment to go talk to Tara at Solon Water District, Tara Hopkins, because, and she's been out because she doesn't know that Solon Water is listed for the wind and the solar. So I need to prepare her if somebody comes in, you know, wanting to do water sample, whatever, because she has a list of approved, like state approved water sample places. Because I think that her role would be, if somebody wants to come in, you need to encourage them to establish a baseline. So get your water samples before the project starts, so that you have something that would hold up in court if there is in fact a problem. Maybe there's not.
Well, I guess what was brought up to me is, okay, so you have a tornado. Now, do you have a toxic cleanup situation? I don't know. I mean,
Do you have
Not
toxic
just a-
cleanup? Because then you have not only a chemical, but you have all these little particles which they say, and I do believe it because they do it in cars, you know, that it's not just a shatter, it's a, it's not a blow everywhere, it's
Possibly
a,
around the school.
yeah.
That would be a
I
bad,
I was
bad
just.
Yeah, I think those are legitimate concerns. And again, my desire, especially on solar, isn't to prevent people from having it, it's to make sure that we are considerate of the neighbors.
Well, I'd say,
So-
yeah,
It says here there are heavy metals in it.
that's, yeah, that's.
Right, now the
my
document
understanding.
from Josh says, oh, it is so minimal, it's not even,
And it does say it's harmful in high
yeah,
concentrations.
right.
What would,
So,
what would the EPA's stance be on something like that?
oh, that's government, they're all for it.
No, that's EPA, part of government. One part of it wants you to have them, that part doesn't care what that part does, but they're interested in your,
They're
what the
meeting-
cleanup
they're
would be.
meeting-
Well, hopefully that's what the
Mitigation.
Farm Bureau will
Yeah.
tell us.
Okay.
I don't think we, yeah.
They're simply valuable because they steal them. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's
But they have
cadmium in
that
them.
problem. What?
Cadmium,
Cadmium.
What is-
cambium,
Well, what's
thank you.
that?
It's
I think
a
it's on
heavy
the-
metal that's worth money.
It's on the,
Roof chart.
yeah.
So it's been
I
50
can't
years
tell you
since
where.
I've been in high school, I don't remember. It's probably been added since then.
The name, what
I
number?
played ignorance on that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll
It
get
was there,
something
but-
back from the Farm Bureau that,
Doesn't-
and if they don't comment on that, you might
Did
ask
you ever hear
it, you
cadmium?
know.
Well, shit, I really feel bad.
Toxic,
You never heard of it?
No.
toxic
Yeah, you taught that, didn't you?
residue that could harm the
No,
soil.
he doesn't.
I'm sure they
He's
will.
up there.
Yeah. Well, I'll forward you Josh's email too. Andy, I'll give you Josh's email for the
What did you
documents he
hear about
provided.
that?
Okay.
Chemistry,
Yeah.
You mean you pay attention?
yes.
Hey, yeah, one of the better students.
Carl?
About that.
Just kidding.
Don't know
It
about
is still
that.
a period, same periodic table.
So we'll plan on putting,
I think they've added to it though.
putting a thing on the agenda that allows us to kind of push that off and give the reasons why. In the meantime, hopefully we'll hear more from the Farm Bureau, which may have some information on toxicity to the soil and or humans or even animals, okay? Is that, okay? Augie, do you have some stuff?
Well, I have something,
We wanna talk about IMRF?
well, in a minute.
Okay.
What I want to report, first of all, is every month Jeff and I work closely together on getting the agenda set. We go back and forth and we get it done. Well, this month, he failed to notice that there was a Scrivener's error in the date. Now, I'm being facetious. Okay, that's on me. Now, I posted the agenda Friday, okay?
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah, it was pointed out to me this morning that I didn't get the date changed from the last board meeting, the 3rd. So it should be the 24th for the world to know, and it's been stated on our annual calendar that we put out at the beginning of the year. So I'm getting a revised one. In fact, the revised one is already up on our website as we speak. I just wanted you to be aware of that. So it's not fatal to the meeting, but I just wanted you to be aware of that we caught it. And Jeff, I'm just giving you a hard time, you know
Oh,
that.
that's fine. That's fine. We
Yes,
give each
that's
other
good.
hard times all the time. Augie and I've also been working on the IMRF deal. You know, you constantly ask us, where are we? Are we behind, ahead? If we're behind, how much are we? If you look in your deals, Augie has put in there where we're at. Looks like this. And this is predicated on Augie talking to Whiffley, and I talked to Whiffley, and we're using the latest figures that they have available. Augie?
And we took those right from their audit that they just
Right.
completed, which they would be using December 31st, 2019 numbers, correct?
Yep.
That's the
And
most
that's the
recent data we
latest
have.
we have available. So if you look at the very top, where it says net pension liability, IMRF regular. It's a negative 130,899. That is actually a positive. Remember, we're counting here now. So positives are negatives and negatives are positive. So we are actually ahead on our regular fund. We're up over our projected liabilities by 131 grand. Then you go to SHLEP, which covers our officers,
Please.
police, you know, the sheriff's deputies, and we're in the hole about 71 grand. And then you go to ECO, which we no longer, we have people that are in that, what, 24, 16,
Yeah,
something that
teens.
have retired from us in years past. And we're 102 grand in the hole there. So the net of all the pension plans is we're in the hole about 42 grand, which they say is phenomenal, the accountants. I mean, everybody wishes they were in the shape we're in. Now, if you look at the, well, you haven't seen this document because it just came out. But we're paying down every month about, well, this coming year, $860. So that's $10,300 annually for this coming year. And we paid, I think, 11 or 1,200 this previous year. We're just coming to an end for. So we're paying 12 grand in. So until we get the audit, we won't know exactly how we're doing, but it looks like we may improve our position slightly. And on the agenda, we've put, hang on, gotta catch up. Don hasn't had a chance to really evaluate where we're at. I've done it, and I think we can spare about $150,000 payment to pay down probably SHLEP completely and knock ECO in the head a little bit, and we'll be even in better shape, okay? But we'll know by the board meeting, well, or thereafter, you're gonna approve not to exceed 150 if you pass that. And then Don will determine what makes sense and either say, yes, Jeff, you're right, 150 grand could go into it, or maybe we'd be better served if we just put 100 in. But at any rate, you'll know where we're at, and you finally have figures on where we're doing on our retirement plans.
This was the one, the one that several years ago, we were quite a bit negative. correct?
600,000.
Yeah, when I came on, it was like 600,000 or
Yeah, I wish I
something.
could find, we may dig out one of the old audits from like 6 or 7 years ago and see where we're at, and then compare the figures to what we have now. But I know constantly you go, well, where are we?
Yeah.
And
Right.
go
Well, it
ahead.
wasn't all that many years ago, if you will recall, we were paying $7,000-8,000 a month
Yeah,
into that Echo
I think
plan.
actually we started off at about
And
11,000.
we started off higher than that.
Yeah.
And then we made some significant pay downs on that.
well, we were paying like 7.5% interest
Yep.
on that at one point,
Yeah,
correct?
every
And
time
we
you
just-
carry over,
And we decided to borrow the money,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
okay,
We'll borrow from the bank instead of borrow from IMRF.
right, and it was
So,
about half the interest.
oh yeah.
And so now we don't owe a bank either?
no, we
Nope.
don't owe bank for MRF or anything else, no.
As far as pension plans go, we are sitting in excellent shape as far as funding is concerned. Just the other state plans, state pension plans, it could be anywhere from, on the average, maybe 25% funded. And here we're sitting at upper 90% funded. So and IMRF as a total, in the aggregate, I think the last time I mentioned it couple, 3 months ago, they were like 94% funded. So IMRF is head and shoulders above all the other retirement plans in the state as far as financial condition. So the board, you're doing a great job on keeping an eye on the IMRF fund, so I'll commend you for that.
So theoretically, in another year, we could be out of the hole.
And remember, there are no individuals contributing to ECHO. They're relying on the investments that they got whenever that ended. So if we can make that up, maybe interest rates increase a little bit, I'm not hoping for that, but if they do, it'll put us back on a more even keel with that fund. Okay?
Congratulations to those of you who are involved in that decision-making.
Yeah, we were, when I first got on board, we were about $600,000 in the hole, I think.
Oh, yeah, we were.
Under the previous board.
I think if you add them all together, we were 1.1 million,
Right.
so we made some real progress. And remember, it's not that it's actually a deficit. It's all in investments and how things pay in, and I mean, it's,
Complicated.
yeah,
So
it's,
how did we end up so positive on the regular fund?
well, I think what we did was we didn't have the information the last couple of times.
So
We pumped in money where we might have pumped it in differently, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It'll catch up. Are there anything else on that issue? Augie, other things?
I don't, right off the top of my head, I'm good unless you.
No.
Precinct stuff I talked to you
Oh,
about.
yes.
You might talk about that.
So the last time we talked, the governor was getting ready to sign a bill, and he subsequently has, that would require all counties to increase their precinct size by 1,200.
212.
I'm sorry, to 1,200, thank you, to 1,200. The, prior to the law, it was 800. So, in other words, when we had 800 and whatever the number was, 50 in Sims Township, we had to split that in half, Sims 1 and 2. And so there is that new requirement, and I called a senator, state senator, who had been a county clerk for 20 years, who I know fairly well, and she said that this law just came out of the blue in the last hour on that Friday that they passed it late in the day, and she has no clue what it's about. And I asked her to help me understand it better, how that would benefit, and she said, well, I don't know. Nobody's talking about it. There's nothing out there. I'm hearing absolutely zero from my state association, Illinois Association of County Clerks and Recorders. Nobody is saying anything about it. I mentioned that to Senator, and she said when that number of 800, size of 800, had been on the books for years and years, and look, there were any number of counties with precincts that had exceeded that, but it was never enforced. And she said, I think that the intent, she was hoping that the intent would be that even though it says you shall, that it really should be you may. And so they're talking about a special session early in January that this is going to be addressed. And the requirement would put the completion date to redo the precinct size early to mid-February, I think. Is that early December, maybe late January?
February 22nd is one date that if we don't do anything, or we ultimately are required,
Yeah.
But the governor's deadline is like the 15th, which is 2 days after the start of circulating petitions.
Yeah, January. Right.
The other thing is, there's a word,
Yeah, the word says practicable. You shall resize your precincts to 1,200 or as much as is practicable. And so a couple county clerks says practicable means, is it gonna work for us? And so I said, well, practicable, that's a good word because changing these precincts, that's not gonna work for us. And, excuse me. And so, what that does, then every precinct is gonna change. All the lines are gonna change. And you're gonna, instead of going down Alexander Street, you may go down Douglas Street and turn left and then zig to the right and get out. It's just gonna be crazy. And that's gonna affect the county board districts.
the other thing you need to remember, currently it's 800.
Yes.
I don't think, but maybe one of my district, or one of my precincts is even at 400. Okay? Now, currently, okay? I know
Well, you have a
Young
precinct.
America is a couple hundred.
Well, you're at
Burlington-
180.
Yeah.
World's Creek,
Right.
190.
So, I mean, additionally, you don't know, I talked to Bellwether about this, Bruce,
Okay.
and he said, well, he said he would get back to us, but they were attending a meeting, and I don't know whether it was in person or whatever, and he would get a hold of you on any ramifications, but he keyed into the word practicability,
Practicable.
practicable. I
Practicable.
can't say that today. Got hit in the head. At any rate, so we'll know better. He said that he wouldn't be very concerned. So, all right.
Well, that would be what I would say. I'm not concerned because there's no outcry throughout the state. And there are a lot of counties our size the impact of that is just incredible. Not to mention expensive.
Did she say why they did that?
No, she didn't understand
I'm
why.
sure they know why.
Well, I kinda got an idea.
Somebody knows why, but, so every registered voter in the county is gonna get a letter and a new voter ID card. What do you think about the cost of paper, ink, postage, time, effort, return mail? That's just that aspect, not to mention having to figure out and draw the lines down streets and alleys and out in the country, and we for sure don't want to divide townships.
So
So,
you'd have to comply.
but you would have to comply.
Well, we're not complying with, in most downstates are not complying to begin with the 800.
Right.
That's right. So it's one of those, it's a benefit to some county somewhere, most likely
Collar County.
Collar County, larger population, could be, well, somebody owes somebody a favor, and,
Thank you, Augie. Is
you're
that-
welcome, Carl, is that?
Yep.
Okay. We're on it, and, we'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
Why don't we take a look at the agenda, but before that, funding for lower T. Remember, we shelved it last month? Andy and I are aware that the state has come across and said they'll match us 80 to 90 cents on the dollar to continue when they broke loose enough funds to do it. So you'll get more on it in January. We've already got signed documents from them. They're gonna start laying off of the audits while we're doing all this stuff. Yeah, so we're getting hit a little bit on the audits right now, but it's,
It's more work than money.
yeah,
I mean, like
There
13
was-
cents here.
well, it was really, seriously, it was like 25,000 that was added to something and then paid, and that, it's all there. And they want to deal with the interest on $25,000 for one fund because it didn't have it for 4 years. And Don figured it out, and the difference between what got paid and didn't get paid was like 3 or 4 cents. I mean, it's,
Right.
yeah, it's, I don't know. It's bean counters.
It's a shell game.
Yeah, at any rate, so, we ended up, I think, where we wanted to be, so some of the things that I know you were concerned about, Carl, are gonna be able to get done, and we'll get that out so you can see where we're at. Hopefully, this'll all work out and we'll be able to proceed, okay? So, I mean, we didn't kill the project, they didn't like it that we weren't gonna do it, so they finally came up with a way to get it done. Also,
So it's back to how we originally wanted it.
Right.
And our shares, like,
I'm sorry,
So I took the lower T the other day, which was not on my way to anywhere, but,
Yeah.
which is where I decided I would go.
Right.
So-
You go there a lot.
Where is this, where would the improvement be?
well, seems to me, in it down there about north of, well, you don't know where the Christmas tree road is.
Mhm.
Somewhere right in there, on down to Elbridge, or is it even on down to the state line?
I think it's all,
I thought it wasn't clear up.
yeah, they're gonna improve curves, you know, there's gonna be, you know, the way it looks is gonna be improved. We'll have him go through that
Don't
with
take
you
any of those curves
at the
out.
next meeting,
I can still
study
go 70
section.
miles an hour,
Okay.
80, no big deal.
We can review
Yeah,
that,
because that all happened
I can beat
before
that.
we came on to.
yeah, it'd be better to have Aaron
Aaron.
Yeah.
go through that if you don't mind, if we could, I'll make sure that he's aware, maybe have a handout on that so that you can see what's included on the lower
Yeah,
T.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff involved in that.
Right, it's a $4 million plus deal now,
Right.
okay? Not to cut you off, I mean, I
No.
can see if he's available to come in here.
No, that's quite all right. I just, like, no. I
I'd like-
drove it.
I'd like to know too. I'm not-
No, I think we all would like there. Yeah, he's in there.
Briefly, since you were just down there, it's
When I
fresh
lived
on
in
your
Terrace
mind.
and I needed to run to Terre Haute, I would take the lower T sometimes if it was still daylight.
I always
I
take
take
I
it
just
every day,
hadn't-
every once a week.
I hadn't been there that way.
I'm over
for
every
quite some
morning,
time.
every evening.
Right.
Or the Sulphur Springs Road, you know, it's just,
That's too rough on my bus. Used to be the best.
yeah.
Around the curve, see,
That's where when you're a kid, you want to sit in the back seat on that.
Oh,
road.
man, yeah.
Yeah.
Just, not the
Boy,
bad,
remember
just
those days.
what would be accomplished.
Okay, Carl asked me to step in here on Lower Terre Haute Road. Lower Terre Haute Road from Elbridge down to the state line was done in 2009. That's a great big project with 3-foot safety shoulders and rumble strips and
Yeah.
guardrail and some dirt, etc. So from Elbridge to the state line, you guys built, you spent a significant amount of money and energy in 10. Then we went back and now we're asking from Elbridge to Walmart, but Elbridge to just up near Farnham's, Sisson's house.
Christmas tree road.
Is this Christmas
Yep.
up here? So from Sisson's, Spring Hill Lake subdivision, kind of in there.
All right,
Yeah.
right.
But there's a Christmas tree road right there, close, that's the curve.
Yeah.
And if you're driving it, if you're trying to be a layman, which I like to be, this whole section here is state built and it's flat and highway-ish looking, there's not a lot of curves on it, longitudinal and horizontal curves. And not only is it topographically flat, but horizontally and longitudinally. Once you get to Farnham's and you make that bend, we call that the bottom.
Okay.
The boys do, going down in the bottom, okay? So I want your minds to think like that. Because so from Spring Hill Lakes into town, nice, easy, 100-mile-an-hour straight driving, you know, Farnham south, you've moved into the bottom. It's gonna get challenging. Does that make sense? So this job that you're doing this time, from the bottom, from Farnham's Christmas Tree Road, Marcy Sisson's house, down to Elbridge is getting shoulders, overlay, guardrail, dirt, kind of the full Monty is what I'll call it. It's getting a new top. So So you're gonna have a brand new riding surface, new centerline rumble strips, new raised reflective pavement markers, the whole works, okay? From Farnham's down to Elbridge. Now from Farnham's up to Walmart, just in the curves, you're gonna get a paved shoulder. It's not gonna be pretty. You're just gonna, where these people off track in the curves, and they do, they off track in the curves terribly, splash the rock up on us, and it's just getting paved shoulders with new striping. We can't afford, so, and we'll want to eventually go back and put a new top on that, but you put a top on that in 13. Any questions? I think that's, did I get the scope good
Strips are
too?
allowed on the school bus.
Farnham's, you're getting new gutters. Okay, at Nevins, you know there's gutters. Anytime the road's lower than the surrounding improved area, you have to put a concrete gutter in it to carry the water.
Realize that.
So at Nevins and down at Elbridge, there's some old concrete gutter that's been filled with asphalt. You'll have new gutters up at grade.
This is a good deal that, thanks to him, that we negotiated with the state to proceed with the project.
Yeah, we've been trying hard, and
Yeah.
well, thanks to Jeff and Andy, to be
Well,
honest.
but I mean,
Yeah,
You could build
I've
a
had a
road,
lot.
but you can't make prime rib. That's pitiful.
Yeah, he can probably make a good prime rib.
thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate that, Mayor.
Appreciate your time.
No problem.
Okay, another grant has come out that Coles County let us know about for, it's Rebuild Illinois, and it's a $50 million grant. And we're looking at it maybe for the courthouse interior, but in cooperation with City, Andy and I are going to a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Colvin's office to meet with the mayor and several others to see how we could combine efforts, and we'll let you know. And we also dusted off plans. Carl, I didn't remember until I really looked at it close. Massey and Massey did a courthouse exterior plan back 11 years ago, and then the foundation looked at it at 17 and didn't do anything. We're dusting that off. They're gonna be there also, and to see how we can combine forces. It's a highly competitive grant, but we're gonna take a look at it. And then we'll get back to the board, but I wanna let you know what we were doing, okay? So, let's see, as far as the agenda, might follow me down. Obviously, we're gonna be final adoption of the budget and levy. We have liquor licenses to deal with. We've got payment on deeds, conveyances deeds to property that have been held by Joseph E. Myers, so there'll be more money coming into our accounts. Resolution to participate in the state's attorney appellate program. Every year we pay in, well, it went up last year, I think $1 grand, but this gives us the availability of people in certain fields that the state's attorney isn't well-versed on to represent us in certain cases. It's kind of like insurance for attorneys. So they will take over and help us from time to time. We've already talked about the commercial policy. Work comps we talked about. You notice that we are eligible to put in for the AEDs. So we're gonna be passing that $27,875 to pay for the AEDs. Let's see, then we got the resolution for the treasurer to pay down the liability for IMRF not to exceed 150 grand. We've got the public defender's contract. Now, we have a full-time public defender that will start, I believe they want to start on the 1st of December. But Nathaniel is Coles County, he's a resident. He is going to be moving here, I understand. I don't want to get out in front of this too far. He's going to be in Cash's office, as I understand it. Let's see, Lapita Thompson is no longer going to be shared with Clark County. She's going to become our conflict backup to Nathaniel. And of course, Tim is starting on the first, Tim, our current assistant state's attorney, is gonna be coming full-time on the 1st of January. So everything there that we were trying to accomplish has been accomplished. I think that the state, or the public defenders we're gonna see some changes in aggressiveness. I wanna be careful. I mean, we appreciate Bill McGrath and what he has done. I think that this is gonna be an opportunity to get the judicial side working more efficiently, and hopefully that will happen. Then we've got bonds and oath on several folks for drainage districts. I'm sorry. Then I got a note here, make sure I don't have anything else buried in my pile. This past week, our architects and engineers were here working on the courthouse, which was fully 3D'd last week. They still have not flown outside because the weather was too bad. So the first week in December, they will be back. That's pretty neat when you see it, and you will see it. Additionally, they were out and did some work, especially research work, out at Vance School, thank you. We did run into an issue where we had, Bob Colvin found that we had a cemetery that once existed with the Presbyterian Church. So that threw up a big red flag on where we were on all that, but all the documentation wrapped up in 1903, when the transfers from the Vance family and all the other things took place. And it was totally vacated, moved, certified, so that's no longer an environmental issue. So we were happy to be able to get all the documentation. You can't always find it, but it was there, and Josh did a good job of running it down. Josh Knight. So, you know, that's pretty much it for what's happening right now. Again, just a reminder, we're looking to get some really good drawings and some fairly decent cost estimates by midsummer in July, just to give you an idea. They are working with 911 and with
Did he get with the chief?
the chief, yes, thank you, chief, to make sure that they're including in design what those agencies would like to see. And the mayor's been very attentive, and we appreciate him being involved, because it does add weight and to what we're trying to do. And so we feel a lot more comfortable, and we appreciate the mayor being involved. Okay? So, other things we need to talk about that I've missed.
I have a couple questions, and I apologize, I was running late this morning. Back to expenditures.
Oh, I didn't mention that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So sometimes I spend more time like I should. Committee Code 4. These are just questions, and I think we've talked about this before, and I just don't remember. The Interstar payment, the $93,000. Can you refresh my memory on what that is?
That is a payment that we borrowed, they lent us money on some projects several years ago, and that is a payment on a loan. They contribute loans for projects, not just to us, but to other entities and even private projects. And I forget which project it was.
That was Staley Bridge.
Staley Bridge?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was on the Staley Bridge. That's one of our
I forgot
payments.
to.
Because you
Thank
couldn't, yeah, you couldn't use, there wasn't it was really creative to be able to build that bridge. And that was part of what they gave to us.
Okay. On Committee Code 7. So. let me see if
We're
I can
paying
say this
ourselves
right.
back.
We're paying ourselves back from what to what? How does that work?
We have two different funds, and it could be, and I'm not sure, I'd have to check, but it could be because of the audit. They wanted to make sure that something was paid out of one instead of the other.
Okay.
I can check on that.
I just, sometimes things dawn on me that they should have before. Committee code 16, it's 95962. Oh,
Give me an amount, it'll be easier.
Prospect Bank for paying off of an excavator. I'm
Right.
like, great, good deal. It's nice to have something paid off.
Yep.
Um,
Then 2 lines down is for that pickup truck, the difference between the new one and the old one.
And we managed to do that for only 2,000?
Yes.
Trade the truck in like that. All of new.
And we saved,
Bought a used one, yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying not to buy anything right now. 30, okay, in committee code 36 and 37. John Deere Financial. I mean, I only know about using John Deere Financial when you're gonna like buy a combine. So, water and supplies, what's with that?
That could be broken.
So you
They're
use the
charging-
John
yeah,
Deere
it is John Deere.
financial card as your credit card?
I believe so.
Yes, that's
That's
what
ours.
they do.
Okay.
Yeah, and yes, that's, Rural King is basically where that is. And,
Gotcha.
um,
So you're just using, just John Deere Financial is your credit, basically credit card, your charge account? Okay.
yeah, that's what they make available.
Yeah, that one's really stood out when it said water and supplies. I'm like, no, tractor, combine?
So
Okay.
you get 2% off on your next combine purchase.
I don't have mine out, but by the total there, does it say total county board or total? Yeah, there's a committee code is on the left, and then when you go over and you go down the column and look at all those expenditures, it'll say total, then there's
Oh, that one said 36 was animal shelter.
animal shelter. Okay, so
Okay.
they've been to Rural
37
King.
was ESDA.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay.
They go out to Rural
So,
King and
so
that's,
those kinds of departments just have that ability to go out and charge
Just
to
charge
that?
it out
and then-
there, yes.
Gotcha. So they don't have to deal with, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
we would have
That's it.
preferred to have a Case International card, but they didn't offer that. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah, is there a cashback or any advantage to using John Deere Financial other than the flexibility and the ease?
I'm sure there's
I
some
am.
why
advantage.
don't you go
Well-
ask Pam?
Like, is there a 2% cashback that the highway department can use on a tractor that they use to mow in the summer?
Well, if there isn't, they need to be using that card.
I don't know.
That's a good question. That was not my question, but that's a good point. Is there an advantage other than the ease and flexibility? All right, I'm done.
Did we, on the issue with holidays, with all the union, did we get all that ironed out, language and?
I believe so. Yeah, because nobody's, Pam is, I asked Pam the other day how everything was, and she said it's clear as a bell, and she's not had any questions since. It was clear as a bell to her.
There's something about that. Did any of the rest of you look at the new laws summary? Of course, you can see how thick the darn thing is. I looked at it online and I asked Augie to print it out for me so I could mark on it, but it's just, I know there's quite a bit that applies to your,
I just got it just now,
Yeah.
so.
It came
I-
Friday, and I forwarded that on to everybody, and I made hard copies for
Yeah.
Carl and Lisa.
so thank you, so I'll probably look at that some more. And there's some animal shelter stuff on here, a little bit that would. Prohibits the possession of an animal if a person or persons who reside in the same household affected have been convicted of 2 or more animal abuse offenses which I would think our volume here is small enough she can
Yeah,
keep an eye on that.
We have had some animal issues over the years.
Oh, I
Not
bet.
a lot.
Especially, well, it's about horses the last time I remember.
Another one, down,
Yeah, that should be.
still down, if you've been by there lately, same old crap, they're out there in the mud, and the mud's knee deep, and.
The horses,
Yeah, the horses.
the one thing about that, is that on the backside, you know, I was concerned
The front.
that they weren't feeding. When I sat out there one morning in my car, I called the sheriff.
Yeah.
And I said, I appreciated you sent somebody out here to, tell these people what they're supposed to do, what they can and can't do. And I said, he said that they'd send them right out. I sat there for 4 hours. And I called back and I said, yes, he was out there. I said, ma'am, he was not out there because I'm sitting right here. So they didn't do anything about it. But on the backside of that, they have an area where they can get in the shelter, and he's always got hay back there.
Right.
And I didn't see that stuff before because the horses are always out in this other crap about up to their knees in mud.
Right.
And then over that time, everywhere I go, I look and see what type of facilities horses have, and they're all bad, not just there. That's one of the worst ones I've seen through. I don't like animal cruelty,
I
Carl.
don't either, I was there the other day.
Of course,
That's
people
better.
never comprehend how
I never-
much space it takes.
And you don't need one horse. If you got one horse, you gotta have two because they're social animals.
Like cats,
Too many cats and one cat.
14, they're social.
You get my point about the horses. I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't completely
So
And
right.
the horseman is harder to deal with because there are so few places that even if you did confiscate them, that you could take them.
I don't know anything about horses. I can just see, I think they're mistreated.
They're
Sometimes I don't think the Amish people do good by theirs, but I don't know that. You see some places where horses have got really nice, and then others like down there all over, it's pitiful.
Did you know there is a scale of like 7 different body condition scores?
Nope,
So that's
I
part
didn't
of
know
it too. And you can actually
I'm afraid to bring something up, you know all this crap.
Right.
Your husband he must be a fun guy.
Carl's not even gonna respond on that one. Fun, when we say that, Alice is fun.
I appreciate you coming, I didn't know that.
Well, so like an Amish horse that has its ribs showing, or a standard bred that's in race condition, there's a body score in there that it's determined acceptable. And then
Kinda like
it just
that
goes
too.
from there.
Clydesdales don't race, do they?
Not very
Too
often.
big, almost, too heavy.
Get out of the way.
And some of those, I just went, in fact, I just went through there the other day 2 or 3 times going to Arthur and to Lovington. And some of those Amish horses are really in good shape. I mean, the
Yeah.
places they are, the summer.
Some are not.
But you don't know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I got a right to my opinion about the way animals are treated.
Trying to do their machinery, you take good care of your machinery.
Much like deer hunting.
I don't like that. My son has a picture on Facebook right now with a huge deer, all the antlers. I texted him back and said, you look great, but I don't appreciate what you're doing. Don't put it on here anymore. Of course, he doesn't listen to me.
We have any more county board business?
Just thought I'd get my opinion in. I hadn't said it.
Is everybody okay? Motion to adjourn? Andy moves. Russ seconds, almost, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Hey, Russ.
That's not funny, Carl.